Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Brendan Lee and today I'm going to be talking you through how I won my second F1 Esports World Championship back in 2018. In this video I'm going to give you exclusive insights, mindset, strategies and everything that went into winning the World Championship. So with that being said, I'm going to pick out the races that stand out in my mind and highlight the opportunity that became winning the World Championship. With all that being said, let's get straight into the action at round one in Australia. But getting away from the lights, I was able to retain the lead down into turn one and was able to maximize my potential through turn one, out of turn two, and be in a commanding position for turn four here at Australia, half a second ahead of Bresnay. But our pace was so equal in this race, it was so difficult to pull away from him, and in fact was able to follow each other in the DRS zone for the whole race. He was putting pressure to me every single lap, and I knew if I made one small mistake he would have the opportunity to attack me and possibly take the race win away from me. Lap 6, you can see only half a second ahead of Daniel Bresnay right now, and that's so critical. I was actually going to be boxing on this lap as well, lap 6, and he was going to go a bit longer than me. I was aiming to get the undercut, try and break the DRS zone in that time as well, but as you'll see what happens later in the race. So now halfway into the race, we are now battling through the cars that have not made their pit stop. We have P6, P7 representatively, and he is still 8, 9 tenths behind me. So even with a lap fresher tyres now, he has the opportunity to attack. But now, as I mentioned, we are overtaking Ollie Pakula, and we have both got the DRS zone. I was really hoping that Ollie would stay ahead of Daniel Bresnay, but Daniel Bresnay did an amazing move around the outside and was able to follow us still in the DRS zone, and we only have a half a second advantage to him right now. Lap 12, he's still 4 tenths behind me, and we have got 2.3 seconds to the trailing cars behind. So that shows we had basically the pace of the field, was able to pull away, and we were not resting, we were not taking it easy, we're not saving tyres, we were pushing absolutely flat out to try and win this opening race of the season. You can see final lap of the race, Bresnay is 3 tenths behind me, keeping the pressure on until the very final lap, but I was able to withstand the pressure, withstand the lap times, look after the tyres, manage the ERS, manage the fuel, manage the pace, and able to come around the final corner and take the first race win of the season. And that's absolutely critical to get the mentality and critical to start the season off in a positive way, taking the race win. Bresnay ultimately got another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so Tino Locoridin was ultimately P2 in this race as well. Really happy Brendan on screen taking home the race win. The second race I'm going to be talking about in this video is race 2, actually, here in China. I didn't have a great qualifying. I start down in P5 on the grid. Daniel Bresnay P1, and his race pace was phenomenal. My tyre management was my strength in this race and the ability to look after the tyres, but you're going to need more than tyre management. You're going to need pace to go with that as well. And you can see now with 5 lights going out, we do in fact get a very strong start away from the grid and was able to pull alongside of the 2 racing points. Fabrizio is on, well, the right hand side of the screen, and Marcel Kiefer is on the left. I'm going down the middle of them, quite a risky position, but Fabrizio Donoso completely cuts me up and pushes me into Marcel Kiefer, very much risking my front wing there with the unnecessary weaving on the straight, but these things can happen in racing, and now I'm down into P6, fighting back for P5 against Tino Locoridin. I knew, like I say, my time management was going to be my strength in this race, and the ability to look after the tyres and ERS along with that. Tino Locoridin tries to attack me around my outside, but we give him a little bit of a squeeze, but do leave racing room on the exit just in case he was there. Now as we fade into lap 5, we were the longest stint of the front runners taking fresh tyres. for later in the race, honing in the advantage of the pace that we can deploy later on. Lap 7. Bear in mind, we started P5 and now we're into a net P2 ahead of Freddie Rasmussen, only 1.6 seconds away from my teammate who was leading the race. Of course, P5 on the stats right now, but once everyone makes a pit stop, he'll be leading. Lap 10, after starting P5, down to P6 momentarily, almost breaking the front wing, we are now leading the Chinese Grand Prix ahead of my teammate, and we still have a lot of tyres and a lot of battery left to try and pull away from him. And we do that, in fact. As the race goes on, we was able to pull away and actually extend the gap to 1.6 seconds as we go on later. Lap 12, you can see Daniel Bresnia was trying to follow me and was still 4 tenths behind me, deploying a lot of his battery to do so. But as we was able to extend the stint a bit more going on later into the race, we was able to hone that advantage like I was talking about, extend the tyres, manage the battery, and as we're going to be cutting on to the final parts of the race in just a second, we will see that we are able to extend to 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 seconds. And as you can see now, Patrick Holtzman is doing a very nice little dive bomb in fact down the inside, then getting a switch back from Joni Tormala. Joni Tormala is a legend of sim racing, top respect to the guy as well. And as you can see, coming onto the final lap, we are 1.3 seconds ahead of Daniel Bresnia, so he was able to break that DRS zone and, well, relatively comfortably take the lead. We must remember, like I say, where we started in this race and was able to fight through because of time management, and that was such a critical thing for the mentality and the confidence going into the remainder of the season. Through the final corner, and we are indeed able to win the Chinese Grand Prix, a cheeky one finger in the bottom left. And that is able to give us a second win of the season and the second race of the season as well. And quite chuffed with that result, to be honest. The next race I want to talk about is Silverstone. Silverstone was an amazing qualifying for me, putting on pole position. My teammate down in P8 and my other championship rival, Freddie Rasmussen, in P3 as well. So starting this race on the front foot. Getting away from the line cleanly, precisely. That was one of my strengths in this season, was able to get good starts, consistent starts, manage the wheel spin, manage to slip on the tyres, and able to put away. Lap 1, I knew Fabrizio was having phenomenally strong pace in this race, able to follow very closely. Lap 3, I knew I was not fighting Fabrizio in this championship. My focus was on Freddie Rasmussen. So right now, I decided to let Fabrizio pass. You can see I don't defend. I'm not using battery down the straight. So I can follow Fabrizio, use his DRS and save my tyres as well for the remainder of the race. And ultimately, like I say, keep my main focus on Freddie Rasmussen to try and make sure that we extend the remainder of the stint. You can see I have 70% on the battery. Something I didn't know what happened in the race was Fabrizio ultimately sped in the pit lane, and that ultimately cost him a chance of fighting for the win. He was very quick in this race, so it was very unfortunate, but I went for the overcut strategy as well. Freddie Rasmussen went for the undercut, and you can see it's still on lap 8. I'm still out on track, pushing the tyre to its maximum capability. Fabrizio and Marcel are fighting up ahead, and that's ultimately cost him a bit more time and really making it a two-horse race between myself and Freddie Rasmussen for the race win. Like I say, Freddie went for the undercut, I went for the overcut. Now on lap 10, we have decided to box, and we are going to be on stone cold tyres, rejoining the race just in front of Freddie. And now my ambition is just try and defend. I know Freddie's going to have warm tyres, and warm tyres around Silverstone in 2018 was probably about a second on the first lap, so my ambition here was to try and cost him as much time as possible. You see pinching him the inside line, so when we arrived to Brooklands and Luffield, his line was as tight as possible to cost him as much lap time. Lap 12 of the race, lap before the final race, final lap of the race, I'd say, the penultimate racing lap, coming down into Stowe Corner, and you can see diving down the inside of Freddie, and you see Freddie actually turns in on us, making contact. And so I think this is what I want to highlight, is going into this corner, you could see I actually was ahead of him. Marginally, I was ahead of him on this race, on this corner, I should say. As well, let's bump this up to 1080p. I don't know why this was so low quality before. But like I say, going into the apex, I was ahead of him. He left the inside line open, and you can see I'm marginally ahead when the contact happens. And I think Freddie didn't see me on the inside. He's not a dirty driver. So I think he just didn't see me on the inside and the contact was unintentional. As you can see now, he gets just shuffled a bit wide because of the contact and the inertia of the car being pushed wide. I put my hand up because I'm very confused to why there was contact, because for me it was a simple thing. I was on the inside, just about ahead of him, and I couldn't understand why there was contact. But irrelevant of this fact, was able to come across the line to win. I think this was now my fifth, no, my fourth, yeah, my fifth race of the season, I think it was. Or my fourth, no, this was my fourth race win of the season in 5 races. This was the 5th race of the season, and I had now had 4 race wins. So my season was really kicking now and was really in a strong stride, and you can see celebrating winning my home Grand Prix. I was very happy with that. Funny little moment as we have a bit of a screen freeze and cars crashing as they come over the line, fighting ultimate for that final podium paying position. But critically for us, we was able to pick up the win, and Daniel Bresnay down in P13 as well. So for him in the championship battle was not a good day, and for me was a great day, winning over Freddie and my teammate as well here in Silverstone on my home race. So far, we've only really talked about positive races, so I want to highlight a race that ultimately was a very good race for me, but a race that was probably my weakest of the season. And that was Spa. In Spa, I didn't quite get the setup right in the preparation, was running too much downforce, but was ultimately very good in race pace, looking after the tyres, but didn't have the best qualifying pace, and definitely didn't have the best one-lap pace in the race either. But with that being said, let's get into the race and see what we could have done with the racing positions. As you can see now, coming down into turn 1, we're down in P6 fighting with Joni Tormler, but we should retain P5. I must say Daniel Bresnay was absolutely lightning here on this race today. Around Spa. He's always super fast around Spa, but especially on this game, on this year, he was really outstanding. Full credit to him. He was an amazing teammate all season long, and totally deserved the victory on this day. You can see lap 3 retaking the race lead against Freddie Rasmussen. Was even able to break the DRS later. I went for the overcut strategy with Joni Tormler, trying to get fresher tyres later in the race. I was actually, again, the longest of anyone on my tyres in the stints. That was a trait that I had all season long, was able to manage the tyres and manage the battery as well. Richard Denosa, Joni Tormler fighting exceptionally hard. And ultimately that gives me a position that I can come out the pit box, and actually I was able to overcut Freddie Rasmussen. Freddie Rasmussen was fighting in P2 up with Daniel Bresnay in lap 3, and now he is down to P7 on lap 7 in fact. And that shows how quickly F1 Esports can turn, but we have got a lot of pressure behind from Freddie Rasmussen as we were going down the back straight here at Spa in the slipstream with Donoso. Was able just to defend from him and retain P6 on the straight. And that's really critical again, because my objective is, if I can't beat my teammate Daniel Bresnay this race, I need to beat Freddie Rasmussen. Coming into the final laps of the race as well, and this is really where my pace was becoming strong. I was looking after the tyres. The final lap of the race, I was sitting back, waiting for the 2 cars to fight each other, for the moment to pounce. P4 in this race so far onto the brakes. You can see Donoso and you can see Joni Tormler pushing each other off the track. Joni Tormler takes P2, and now Donoso has a slow run out the corners. I look to the outside. I go late on the brakes around the outside of Fabrizio Donoso. Donoso pushes me off the track, but to be honest, rubbing's racing, and that stuff happens in racing. I don't want to be one of those drivers that cries about any hardship on tracks. That happens, but that did put us on the back foot, and now Freddie Rasmussen is attacking us down into the chicane, and this is a very dangerous position for me. Freddie goes around the outside, does an amazing braking zone, and to be honest, an amazing move as well, and ultimately we get shuffled out a bit and fall down to P6 with Sully overtaking us as well. So that was a bit unfortunate, but that was definitely my worst race of the season, and for my worst race of the season to be P5 is something that I can be extremely proud of. And to be extremely proud of, I'm also extremely proud of Daniel Bresnay there on the screen, taking home what I believe was his first race win in F1 Esports as well, and 100% deserved. He was an absolute beast, and he deserved that race win 125 million%. So now we arrive to USA. this is the race that I can win the championship here today. All I have to do is get like 1 point and I can win the championship. And I'm starting on pole position for one of my favourite tracks. And going into this race, I didn't really feel nervous, to be honest. I knew that I could make a few mistakes. As long as I was going to get a point, then I could be champion. And that gave me a lot of confidence and assurance that I can just go out into this race, do my thing, and flow with the track, flow with the car, and ultimately be the driver that you always like to be and not feel too much pressure in this race. With that being said though, we've got 5 lights and lights out here at Australia. We got lights out at Austin, I should say, in the USA, cutting across Freddie, making my intentions very clear down into turn 1, making sure that he can't go around the outside of us. As always, all season long, my time management was one of my strongest assets, and my ability to extend stints and look after tyres at the end of stints as well was one of the highlights for me and the critical factor of being able to win the races that I did. And USA was no different for me. You can see lap 4, where the tyre temperature was so critical, we was able to extend the gap already to 2.6 seconds up ahead of Patrick Holtzman and Freddie Rasmussen, fighting with Daniel Beresnay. Like I say, I've already said it a few times, all I needed was P10. Once I extended myself out of the DRS zone of 1 second, I was able to relax in this race and be fairly comfortable and just manage to pace home for the remainder laps of the race. So I just wanted to let Jack Nicholls, the commentator from the season, take me over the line. It was such a proud moment for me. All the efforts, all the work that we did in the pre-season. One of the biggest motivations for me definitely was a lot of the hatred I got online. After 2017, there was a lot of people that commented about my weight, commented about a lot of negative factors and trying to insult me. I took those motivations with me to the gym. I worked out hard. I worked on my telemetry. I worked on my driving style. And I put everything into a package that was able to deliver a championship. And it's one of the proudest factors of my life is that whenever someone throws negativity to me, I translate it into my positive energy and output it to the world to continue being a better version of myself. And that's what I was able to do this year, was able to output my best self into the world and was able to maximize my performance because of this factor. I also want to say that this victory was also for the team behind the scenes of Mercedes and what we had internally as well, because they deserve to win just as much as anyone else in the world. And although you just see my name up there, or Daniel Beresnay's name, the work ethic and everything we had internally back then was so strong. And so I think that I'm very grateful to be able to work alongside the people that I did in that time frame. So yeah, coming towards the end of the video, and this is actually where I got my trophy. Tom Deacon was able to hand me my trophy, and this is one of my most proudest moments in life, was walking down those steps and picking up the trophy. And the feeling of realization was sinking in, and the feeling of pride, joy, emotions were just heightened beyond belief. What I'm going to do is show this montage what F1 was able to make of the highlight package. Wow, wow, wow. What a season that was. And I have to say, I'm so grateful to Mercedes and the whole team behind the scenes back then. Really, it wouldn't be possible without them. And I want to say a massive thank you to Formula One, Gfinity, Codemasters, anyone and everyone that went into making the series happen in 2018 and still go into making the series happen today. They changed my life, they're changing a lot of people's lives as well, and making my dream a reality and making so many other people's a dream a reality to be able to, well, effectively race around in circles for a job. And for me, that was my dream, and I'm so grateful to make that into reality. So I think at minimum, we owe the people behind the scenes a thank you. So from the bottom of my heart, massive thank you to everyone behind the scenes. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If there's any questions I have not answered in this video, be sure to comment them down below and I will be able to answer them directly for you in the comment section. So I've been Brendan Lee. Until next video, thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao.